The floating citadel drifted silently above the dying star, its massive spires glinting with the soft light of distant nebulae. Every surface, from the polished floors to the soaring ceilings, was adorned with ancient carvings that spoke of glory and conquest. Yet, despite its grandeur, there was a stillness inside the citadel, a quiet that spoke more of absence than of peace. At the heart of this silence, in a room lined with floating candles and holographic decorations, sat the dragon Empress. Neris. Her scales, a deep iridescent green that shimmered even in the faint glow, reflected centuries of battles fought and won. But today, she was not in her armor. Not surrounded by her fleet or her advisors. Today, she sat alone in her sleek, hovering wheelchair. The hum of its engines barely audible. A solitary figure marking the passage of time. It was her 402nd birthday. A milestone that once would have meant a grand celebration, attended by allies, generals, and emissaries from countless systems. Now, it was marked only by a quiet ritual. A ceremonial drink, the soft whisper of music from a long dormant orchestra system, and the faint scent of rare spices that reminded her of a world she no longer ruled. Neris had long since stopped expecting visitors. In her long life, the pattern had repeated itself. Victories, alliances, celebrations, and then inevitably loss. Friends, allies, even family had drifted away, leaving her to face the vast universe alone. She raised a delicate crystal to her snout, the liquid inside swirling like liquid fire. As she inhaled the scent, memories came flooding back. She remembered leading fleets across the Orion Reach, her roar echoing across the void as her enemies fled in terror. She remembered the triumph of uniting warring star systems under her banner, the joy of seeing a fractured galaxy bow to order and justice. But she also remembered the cost. The battles had left scars on her body and on her heart. She had given up mobility, and the wheelchair was a constant reminder that even a dragon as powerful as she could be confined. A faint knock at the observation deck broke the rhythm of her solitude. She stiffened, scales bristling, instinctively reaching for the small control panel at her side that could summon defenses at a moment's notice. Visitors at this hour were rare, unwelcome visitors even rarer. The Citadel's automated sensors confirmed a small vessel drifting near her orbit. Neris narrowed her eyes, peering through the vast window. A modest starship floated there, its hull scratched and worn, not the kind that would belong to an emissary or an assassin. The voice came through the comm system, calm and respectful. "Excuse us, Your Majesty. We mean no harm. My name is KL, and this is my daughter, Lyra. Our shuttle suffered a malfunction, and we drifted into your orbit. Could we wait here while we make repairs?" Neris regarded them silently. The voice carried no arrogance, no threat. It was filled with something simple, human. The kind of ordinary courage she had rarely encountered in centuries. She weighed her options carefully. One part of her wanted to dismiss them, to retreat back into her solitude where nothing could surprise her. Another part, buried deep beneath layers of protocol and pride, felt an unfamiliar flicker of curiosity. She exhaled a plume of warm air that fogged the window briefly before she replied. "You may wait," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But be aware the Citadel is my domain. Respect it, and you will not leave harmed. Disrespect it, and, well, you understand consequences." "Yes, Your Majesty," Kale said immediately. Lyra, whose eyes sparkled with uncontainable curiosity, leaned forward, barely containing her excitement. "Thank you, ma'am. We promise we'll be careful." When the shuttle docked, Neris watched as the pair stepped inside. Kale was tall, practical in his clothing and bearing, his hands covered in grease and small burns that spoke of hard work and ingenuity. Lyra was smaller, with bright eyes and a restless energy that made the room feel alive despite its centuries of silence. The two approached cautiously, but with a confidence that was unusual for mere humans facing a dragon empress. Neris did not rise to greet them. She remained in her wheelchair, observing. Lyra's gaze, however, did not waver. "Wow," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "You're really a dragon. And huge." Neris allowed herself the smallest of smiles. "I am many things," she said. "But I am still a dragon." "That is not a surprise." Lyra's eyes widened. "I've only read about dragons in stories, but you're real." Neris felt a stir in her chest, a feeling she had not experienced in centuries. This small human, so full of wonder, had not bowed or cowered. Instead, she had approached with curiosity, with respect, and that was refreshing. Kale, noticing the brief interaction, stepped forward with a respectful bow. "Your Majesty, we are merely travelers. We mean no intrusion. If our presence offends you, we will leave immediately." Neris shook her head slowly. "You may stay. But first, tell me why a mechanic and his daughter would drift so close to the orbit of a dragon empress, a being who has long since withdrawn from the affairs of the galaxy." Kale smiled faintly. "We were fixing a shuttle. A small mistake. Some miscalculation. Next thing we know, we're here." He glanced at Lyra, who nodded vigorously. "And honestly, we're curious. It's not every day you meet someone like you." Neris considered this. Curiosity, boldness, respect, traits that had once been her allies in war, now appearing in humans she had never met. She gestured for them to sit, and they did so, carefully keeping their distance. The citadel was vast, and yet somehow their presence began to fill it with warmth. For a while, silence hung between them. Then Lyra spoke, her voice soft but insistent. Do you get lonely?" Neris's eyes narrowed slightly. The question was simple, but profound. Loneliness was a concept she had long buried under duty and pride. She paused, letting the words sink in before answering. "Loneliness is not unfamiliar," she admitted. "It has followed me for centuries, though I have learned to endure it. The galaxy is vast, but companions are fleeting. Friends and allies leave, and even those who remain often do so out of obligation, not affection." Lyra tilted her head. "That sounds sad, but you don't have to be alone right now, if you don't want to." The words, innocent yet powerful, struck a chord within Neris. She had faced fleets, alien armies, and cosmic disasters, but no challenge had been as unexpected or as moving as the simple offer of companionship from this human child. She found herself considering something she had not dared in centuries: the possibility of allowing others into her life, if only for a brief moment. Kale, sensing the shift, added, "We're not here to take anything from you. Just maybe to share some time, if you'll have us." Neris studied them for a long moment. Their presence was an anomaly, a disruption to the careful routines she had maintained for centuries, and yet, she felt a flicker of excitement, something she had thought lost forever. Slowly, she gestured toward the floating tea service, and the two humans moved closer, marveling at the delicate porcelain cups and the exotic, steaming brew. As they sipped in silence, Neris began to speak, recounting tales of her youth, the battles she had led, the alliances she had forged, the star systems she had united under her banner. Lyra's eyes widened with every story, while Kale listened intently, occasionally offering insights from his life among the stars. Neris was struck by the simplicity of their perspective. They had not been hardened by centuries of command or the burdens of power. Yet, in their curiosity and ingenuity, they displayed a resilience that reminded her of herself in her youth. Hours passed. The citadel, once a tomb of memories and silence, now echoed with laughter and conversation. Neris found herself smiling more openly than she had in decades. She watched Lyra mimic her gestures, fascinated by the mechanisms in her wheelchair, and Kale offer small improvements to the hovering systems, subtly enhancing their efficiency. Their presence was practical, yes, but also profoundly human, a combination of intelligence, courage, and empathy. By the time the distant star cast long, flickering shadows across the citadel walls, Neris realized that she had not been truly alone for the first time in centuries, and though she had begun the day resigned to solitude, she now felt the stirring of something new. Anticipation, connection, and perhaps even hope. The day had started with the quiet reflection of a life marked by triumph and isolation, and it ended with a simple truth. Even the most powerful beings, those who had conquered fleets and forged empires, could find companionship in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, it took the boldness of a mechanic and his daughter to remind a dragon Empress that she was not beyond friendship, laughter, and the warmth of shared stories. As the floating candles shimmered, casting dancing lights across her scales, Neris felt a flicker of something she had thought lost. Joy. Perhaps, she thought, this birthday would not be the quiet, lonely ritual she had expected. Perhaps, for the first time in centuries, it could be a beginning rather than an ending. Outside, the shuttle rested quietly in orbit, its engines cooled and ready. Inside, the citadel hummed with life once more, and a dragon Empress bound in body but not in spirit welcomed her unexpected guests. For Neris, the universe suddenly felt a little smaller, a little brighter, and infinitely more full of possibility. And in the quiet that followed, a small human voice whispered again, filled with hope. "Thank you for letting us stay." Neris inclined her head, the faintest hint of a smile on her snout. "You are welcome," she said. "And perhaps you will stay longer than you realize." The citadel, vast and eternal, no longer felt empty. The next morning, sunlight, or what passed for sunlight, near a dying star filtered softly through the citadel's high windows. Neris was already awake, her iridescent scales catching the dim glow, and her mind occupied with thoughts she hadn't entertained in centuries. She watched Kael and Lyra moving about the observation deck, tinkering with small devices and repairing the shuttle. Their actions were methodical, practical, but not mechanical. There was a warmth to them, a human resilience that fascinated her. Lyra darted from one console to another, her small hands probing every control, every panel. "Look, Daddy, I think this lever does something if we..." She pushed it, and a faint alarm buzzed. She jumped back, eyes wide, but Kael merely chuckled, guiding her hands gently. "Careful, Lyra. This is the main console. One wrong move and will set off every alert in the citadel." Neris watched silently, her head tilted slightly. She was amused by the child's curiosity. Humans were fragile, yes, but they possessed an energy that dragons often lost over centuries of careful calculation and measured action. There was a spark in them, unpredictable and alive. Watching Lyra reminded her of a younger version of herself. The fierce curiosity that had led her to command entire fleets. At an age most would call naive, Kael noticed her gaze. "Your Majesty," he said respectfully, pausing his work. "Do you want us to be more careful? Or are you comfortable with us poking around?" "I am observing," Neris replied. "Curiosity is a trait I once valued in warriors. Perhaps I still do." Her voice carried authority, yet it softened slightly, almost imperceptibly. Lyra beamed. "Then I'm doing exactly what a good visitor should do." The day unfolded with small discoveries. Kael found minor malfunctions in the shuttle that could have caused disaster if left unchecked. Neris offered insight occasionally, her mind sharp even if her body was bound to the wheelchair. "The coolant line needs a pressure adjustment," she said, her claws pointing to the exact pipe. Kael nodded, impressed by her precise knowledge. "You know, for someone who's supposed to be retired, you're very hands-on," Kael said, tightening a screw as he worked. Neris let out a low, rumbling laugh. "Retired? Humans often misunderstand the nature of dragons. We do not retire. We endure. We observe. We act when necessary." Lyra tilted her head. "So you're still a warrior?" "Always," Neris said simply. A warrior does not fade with age or injury, only with forgetting the lessons of the past. Lyra's small face brightened. Then maybe I can be a warrior too someday. Even if I'm not a dragon. The Empress's eyes softened. Strength comes in many forms. You must discover yours. As they worked, Neris began to see them not just as intruders, but as companions. Their presence was subtle, like a breeze that shifted the still air of her citadel. They spoke of their lives, their travels, the dangers of surviving in uncharted sectors, and the joys of small victories. Kale spoke of repairing freighters in hostile zones, navigating asteroid fields, and the ingenuity needed to survive when technology failed. Lyra added her own perspective, her youthful optimism often challenging her father's careful pragmatism. By mid-afternoon, a low rumble shook the citadel. Neris's sensors immediately alerted her to an anomaly. One of the defense drones, long dormant, had activated without explanation. The hum of its engines echoed ominously. She narrowed her eyes and directed Kale and Lyra to remain at a safe distance. "It's a malfunction," she explained. "Or perhaps a warning. My citadel has not seen visitors in centuries, and yet its systems still defend against intruders." Kale leaned closer to a console. "I can try to interface with it, Your Majesty. Maybe it's something I can fix before it does anything dangerous." Neris nodded. "Proceed. But with caution. One misstep, and the system will assume you are a threat." The two humans worked together, Kale's steady hands guiding Lyra's smaller ones, teaching her patience and precision. Neris observed, her mind racing with tactical possibilities. She realized that, although her body was limited, her mind remained a weapon that could direct allies, coordinate systems, and solve problems with the efficiency of centuries of experience. As Kale reprogrammed the drone, Neris shared stories of her past encounters with rogue factions, pirate fleets, and interstellar conspiracies. Lyra listened, wide-eyed, fascinated by the strategic genius and courage of the Empress. She asked questions, simple but probing. How do you know what's safe? How do you choose who to trust? Neris considered this. Trust is a risk, she said carefully. Every ally can become an enemy if ignored. Every enemy may offer unexpected loyalty. Experience teaches caution, but judgment teaches wisdom. Lyra nodded slowly, as if understanding something profound without fully grasping the complexities. Kale glanced at Neris, impressed by the clarity and simplicity of her philosophy. He realized that while he had navigated countless dangers, he had never encountered wisdom shaped by centuries of survival and command. The afternoon stretched on. Repairs continued, and the drone, once a threat, now moved silently under Kale's careful control, patrolling the citadel without incident. Neris felt a surge of approval not for her own systems, but for the humans who had adapted so quickly to her world. They were clever, resourceful, and brave in ways she had not expected. As evening approached, the distant dying star cast long shadows across the citadel, painting everything in hues of gold and crimson. Lyra, exhausted from a day of tinkering and listening, finally plopped down near Neris's wheelchair, her small hands fidgeting with a piece of scrap metal. Do you ever get tired?" she asked, gazing up at the Empress. Neris considered the question. Tired? Yes, but not defeated. Fatigue is a signal to rest, not a reason to surrender. The mind remains sharp, even when the body falters. Lyra looked thoughtful. So even if you can't fight like before, you're still powerful. Neris felt a warmth spread through her chest. Power is not only in the body, she said. It is in thought, in strategy, in the courage to act when others hesitate. Never forget that. Kale smiled, seeing the connection growing between the Empress and his daughter. He realized that their accidental visit had become more than a repair mission. It was a bridge between worlds, between beings who had long since resigned themselves to solitude, and those who had yet to understand the depth of possibility in life. Just as they were settling into a comfortable rhythm, an alarm blared sharply through the citadel. Sensors picked up an approaching vessel, a small, fast ship, maneuvering aggressively. Neris's eyes narrowed, her mind immediately calculating threat levels, possible outcomes, and defensive strategies. "Rogue faction," she muttered. "They believe I am weak. They do not know that strength is not measured only in wings or fire, but in mind, in preparation, and in allies." Kale quickly moved to a console, interfacing with the Citadel's long dormant defense systems. "What do you want us to do, Your Majesty?" "Observe, assist when I command, but remain safe," Neris instructed. "This will test not only your courage but your ingenuity." Lyra's eyes shone with determination. "We can do it," she exclaimed. The approaching vessel fired warning shots. Neris activated her wheelchair's hidden thrusters, shifting her position to command the Citadel's defenses efficiently. Kale and Lyra followed her directions, their small actions amplifying the Empress's strategic control. Together, they created a system of coordinated defenses, energy shields, automated turrets, and tactical maneuvers that forced the intruder to retreat. When the danger had passed, silence returned to the Citadel. Neris exhaled slowly, feeling the familiar rush of command, the satisfaction of a well-executed strategy. Yet, unlike before, she did not feel alone. Kyle and Lyra had proven themselves worthy companions, their courage and quick thinking amplifying her own capabilities. "Not bad for a day's work," Neris said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Lyra grinned, flushed with excitement. "We didn't even get scratched," Kale chuckled. "Barely. But it was worth it. That was amazing. I've never seen anything like that." Neris studied them, a sense of profound understanding settling in her chest. They were ordinary humans. Yes, but extraordinary in their willingness to act, to think, to trust in ways that few others had dared in centuries. She realized that the galaxy was not devoid of allies, only that she had long forgotten how to recognize them. As the stars outside shifted in their slow dance, Neris permitted herself a rare moment of reflection. Her birthday, once destined for solitude and silence, had become a day of connection, learning, and quiet joy. The humans had not only repaired her shuttle, but had repaired a part of her that she had thought lost. The ability to trust, to hope, and to share her life, even if only for a brief time. Lyra leaned against the arm of Neris's wheelchair, her small hand brushing against the smooth surface. "Can we stay for a little longer, just until we have to leave?" Neris looked at them, her ancient eyes gleaming. "You may stay," she said softly. "Perhaps for longer than you realize." The Citadel, once a place of silence and memory, now hummed with life. The Empress, though bound in body, felt a freedom of spirit she had not known in centuries. And for Kale and Lyra, the ordinary humans who had dared to enter her domain, the galaxy had revealed a glimpse of true courage, friendship, and the extraordinary nature of life itself. As night fell, the distant stars casting their faint glow across the observation deck, Neris allowed herself a small, contented smile. For the first time in centuries, she was not alone. The Citadel remained quiet for a time, the lingering tension from the earlier attack slowly fading into the soft hum of its automated systems. Neris, still in her hovering wheelchair, surveyed the observation deck with keen eyes. The Empress had faced countless enemies over her long life. Yet the thrill of the day's confrontation had awakened something in her, a reminder that vigilance and courage were never to be abandoned, no matter the years or injuries endured. Kale and Lyra were nearby, their movements careful but determined, tending to minor repairs and monitoring the Citadel's sensors. Lyra had perched herself on a small observation bench, her legs swinging idly as she gazed at the endless expanse of space. "Do they often try to attack you?" she asked quietly, her voice carrying both curiosity and concern. Neris's eyes flickered with memory. "Often enough. Enemies are always testing the limits of power, looking for weakness, and I have given them cause over the centuries. But strength is more than wings and fire. It is mind, preparation, and allies who will act when you cannot." Kale, wiping grease from his hands, nodded. "That's true. Out there, you have to be ready for anything. The smallest mistake can cost everything. But you, well, you're clearly not just any dragon. Neris allowed a small rumble of amusement. I am many things. But today, I find myself relying on what is most surprising human ingenuity. Lyra's eyes lit up. You think we helped? We're just small humans. Neris studied the pair, her ancient mind calculating and weighing. Size and strength are not the measure of contribution. The courage to act, the clarity to make decisions, and the willingness to adapt, these are far more important. The tranquility did not last. Later that evening, the Citadel's sensors detected multiple incoming ships, fast, sleek, and bristling with weaponry. Neris's scales bristled, and her tail shifted subtly in the wheelchair's stabilizing system. They have returned, she said, her voice calm but edged with warning. And they are not here for observation. Kale and Lyra exchanged a glance. Kale moved immediately to a console, his hands flying across controls as he assessed the threat. We have maybe minutes before they reach the outer perimeter, he said. What do you want me to do? Neris considered this carefully. Her wheelchair, elegant and restrained in appearance, hid a network of weapon systems and tactical controls that were connected to the Citadel itself. She would need precise coordination to repel this attack. Assist me with the defense grid, she instructed. Lyra, follow my directions carefully. This will test everything you've learned today. Lyra nodded, determination in her eyes. We can do it. The first ship appeared on the horizon, its engines glowing ominously as it approached at high speed. Neris activated her systems, and the wheelchair hummed with hidden power. The Citadel's turrets spun into action, energy shields flaring as the attackers unleashed their first salvo. Neris's mind moved swiftly, issuing commands, predicting trajectories, and synchronizing Kale and Lyra's actions with the Citadel's automated systems. Kale adjusted the targeting arrays as directed, his hands moving with precision and confidence, each command blending seamlessly with the Empress's strategy. Lyra monitored sensor readings, relaying crucial information about the ship's movements and shield weaknesses. Together, they formed a small but effective team, combining dragon intellect and human adaptability. The attackers split into two groups, attempting to flank the Citadel. Neris anticipated this, maneuvering the wheelchair to adjust her field of control. The Citadel's turrets fired in calculated bursts, forcing the enemy into defensive maneuvers. Explosions flared in space, sending sparks and debris tumbling across the void. Despite her limited mobility, Neris directed the battle with the precision of a seasoned commander, and Kale and Lyra executed her orders with unwavering focus. You're incredible, Kale shouted over the comm, barely audible over the hum of energy shields and the roar of distant blasts. I've never seen anything like this. Neris allowed herself a faint smile. You will find that centuries of experience are difficult to surpass. One of the enemy ships managed to breach the outer defenses, its weapons aiming directly for the Citadel's core. Lyra's voice trembled slightly. It's coming right for us. Focus, Neris instructed. Predict its movement. Adjust the shields. Kale, reroute power to the dorsal turrets. Lyra, watch the flanks and alert me to any deviation. They worked together seamlessly. Neris's calculations, Kale's technical skills, and Lyra's intuition created a defensive network that no single human or dragon could have managed alone. The intruder's shots were deflected, its approach foiled, and it was forced to retreat under the overwhelming countermeasures. After the immediate threat was neutralized, Neris allowed herself a moment to breathe. Well done, she said quietly, her gaze softening as she looked at the humans who had faced danger by her side. You have shown courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness, all qualities that are rare and precious, even among dragons. Lyra's cheeks flushed with pride. We did it together, Kale nodded, his face reflecting both relief and admiration. I never thought I'd be in a battle like this with a dragon. And, well, I think we held our own. Neris's mind, though still sharp and strategic, felt a strange warmth. For centuries, she had led armies, defeated enemies, and protected civilizations, but she had done so alone, or with those who acted out of fear or obligation. These humans were different. They acted out of trust, curiosity, and the desire to help. And that made all the difference. After the battle, the Citadel required repairs, and the trio worked through the night. Lyra's energy never faltered. She moved tirelessly between consoles, assisting Kale and learning from Neris's guidance. Kale, practical and experienced, implemented more permanent solutions, adjusting circuits and reinforcing the Citadel's shields. Neris observed, occasionally directing attention to minor flaws, her mind as active as it had been in the height of her campaigns. As dawn approached, the immediate danger had passed. Neris looked out at the distant stars, their light pale and flickering against the backdrop of the dying sun. The attack had been repelled, but she knew it was only a matter of time before new threats arose. Yet, she felt a quiet confidence. She was not alone. She had allies, and not merely because of their skills, but because of the trust and courage they had shown. Lyra climbed onto the armrest of Neris's wheelchair, brushing her small hands against the polished surface. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "They may," Neris said honestly, "but if they do, we will be ready. And now, we are not just defending the Citadel. We are protecting something far more important: trust, friendship, and the strength that comes from working together." Kale, standing beside them, added, "I think the three of us make a pretty good team. I've never worked with anyone like you before, Your Majesty." And Lyra, "Well, you're amazing," Lyra grinned. "Thanks, Daddy." And, "Thanks, Your Majesty." Neris allowed herself a full, unguarded smile, a rare expression even among the dragons of legend. She realized that her strength was not diminished by the wheelchair that bound her body. Her mind remained sharp, her strategy unparalleled. And now, with these companions at her side, she felt something she had not felt in centuries: hope. As the stars shifted in the sky and the Citadel hummed with repaired systems, Neris reflected on the day's events. She had faced danger, yes, but she had also learned something new. That courage was not measured solely by battles fought or victories won, but by the willingness to trust, to collaborate, and to embrace the unexpected gifts of companionship. Lyra, exhausted but exhilarated, rested against Neris's wheelchair. "Can we stay a little longer?" she asked softly. Neris studied her, the faintest hint of amusement in her eyes. "You may stay," she said gently. "Perhaps." Kale placed a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. "I think we've found a good place for now. Somewhere safe. Somewhere incredible." Neris's gaze softened as she watched them. In the vast emptiness of space, where empires had risen and fallen, and centuries had passed, she had discovered something far rarer than power or conquest. She had discovered trust, loyalty, and the quiet, steady light of friendship. And for the first time in centuries, Neris allowed herself to believe that her life, even in this wheelchair, was not confined by solitude. It was expanded by the courage of those who dared to enter her world, to face danger alongside her, and to see her not merely as a legendary dragon, but as a being capable of connection, warmth, and hope. As the first light of a new day touched the Citadel's spires, Neris felt a sense of renewal. The attack had tested them, yes, but it had also bonded them. Kale's ingenuity, Lyra's curiosity, and her own centuries of experience had combined in a way that was rare and powerful. The Citadel, once a place of silence and memory, now pulsed with life, purpose, and possibility. The Empress, though bound in body, felt her spirits soar. She had weathered centuries, faced enemies, and endured solitude, but now, she had allies who had proven themselves in action, thought, and heart. And that made all the difference. The galaxy outside continued its endless dance of stars and void. But within the Citadel, three beings, one dragon, one human, and one child stood together, ready for whatever the universe might send next. The Citadel's corridors were alive with activity as the morning sun, or what passed for sunlight near a dying star, cast long streaks of gold across polished floors. Neris, the Dragon Empress, remained in her wheelchair, but her presence filled every space with authority and calm. Kale and Lyra had already begun their morning routines, checking the Citadel's sensors and repair systems. Though their eyes frequently drifted to Neris, there was a respect, almost reverence, in the way they moved around her, not out of fear, but because they recognized the quiet strength that radiated from centuries of experience. The previous day's attack had left the Citadel slightly damaged, but Kale had worked tirelessly overnight to ensure the integrity of the hull, the defensive systems, and the auxiliary engines. Lyra, energetic and insistent, had assisted at every turn, learning more about technology in one night than most humans would in months. Neris observed their efforts, her mind active with strategy, reflection, and an unfamiliar warmth that came from shared endeavor. "You both did well yesterday," she said, her deep voice echoing softly in the observation deck. "Your courage and quick thinking prevented what could have been serious damage. And more than that, you have shown loyalty, something I thought I had lost the ability to rely on." Kale looked at her, a mixture of pride and humility on his face. "We just followed your lead, Your Majesty. You guided us, and we acted. I think that's how real teamwork works." Lyra bounced in her seat. "Yeah, and it was so exciting. I didn't think humans like us could actually help a Dragon Empress fight enemies." Neris allowed herself a small rumble of amusement. The size of one's body is no measure of strength. It is the size of one's heart and mind that counts. Their conversation was interrupted by the Citadel's sensors detecting multiple incoming signals. These were not merely rogue ships. The readings indicated a fleet approaching from a neighboring system, one that had long envied the Dragon Empress's power. Neris narrowed her eyes, and her wings, though partially bound by age and injury, shifted slightly in tension. "They have come for me," she said calmly. "They believe my reign has ended. They believe I am weak. But they will learn that true strength is not easily extinguished." Kale's hands flew over a console, adjusting shields and monitoring the fleet's approach. Lyra, her curiosity mixed with determination, leaned over his shoulder. "Do you think we can help again?" she asked. Neris studied them, weighing the answer. "Yes. You will assist me once more. But remember, this battle will be more dangerous than the last. You must follow instructions precisely, and trust in both me and yourselves." The fleet emerged from the dark void, sleek ships bristling with energy weapons, moving with deadly precision. Neris activated her wheelchair's hidden systems, the hum of engines blending with the low roar of her own heartbeat. Kale interfaced directly with the Citadel's defense grid, rerouting power to turrets and shields, while Lyra monitored for gaps in the attacker's formation. The first salvo of energy blasts streaked through space, and the Citadel's shields flared brilliantly. Neris's mind, sharp as ever, calculated trajectories, predicted enemy maneuvers, and issued commands in rapid succession. Kale's steady hands executed her orders flawlessly, while Lyra's small, agile mind picked up subtleties in the battle that even the most advanced sensors might miss. Together, they formed a seamless unit, combining dragon intellect and human adaptability. "Divert power to dorsal shields," Neris commanded, her voice calm but firm. "Lyra, monitor the flank. Kale, prepare countermeasures on my mark." The humans obeyed immediately, their actions precise and confident. Lyra's eyes scanned the sensors, her small fingers tapping across the console to relay critical data. "They're trying to flank us on the right," she shouted. "Predicted," Neris replied. "Counter with turrets 5 through 9. Kale, adjust targeting to compensate for their velocity." Explosions flared in space, sending debris spinning against the black backdrop. One of the enemy ships managed to breach the outer defenses, its energy cannon aimed at the Citadel's core. Lyra's hands shook slightly, but she did not hesitate. "I see it. It's coming fast." "Stay calm," Neris instructed. "Predict its path. Engage shields at maximum output. Kale, fire at the rear thrusters to disable movement. The plan worked. The intruder's weapon was deflected by the shields, while Kale's counterattack disabled its engines, sending it tumbling helplessly through the void. The remaining fleet hesitated, reassessing their approach as the Citadel's defenses recalibrated. Neris's wheelchair moved gracefully, her commands precise, her strategic genius unchallenged even in the face of overwhelming odds. When the last enemy ship was forced to retreat, Neris allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. "Well done," she said quietly, her gaze sweeping over Kale and Lyra. "You have both proven yourselves in the heat of battle. Your courage and skill have made the difference." Lyra's face glowed with pride. "We really helped. I can't believe it." Kale nodded, breathing heavily but smiling. "We did more than survive, we contributed. I never thought I'd say this, but I think we make a good team." Neris allowed herself a rare, full smile. "A team indeed. And remember this, both of you. Even the strongest warrior cannot stand alone. Trust, cooperation, and courage are the greatest weapons one can wield." The battle behind them, the Citadel needed repair. Kale and Lyra worked tirelessly, aided by Neris's guidance. Lyra handled small repairs, learning quickly, while Kale managed structural adjustments and system reinforcements. Neris, though limited in mobility, directed operations with the sharp mind of a veteran commander. As evening fell, the Citadel's main observation deck was quiet once more. The three of them gathered near the central window, looking out at the stars, their light flickering softly over polished floors and intricate carvings. "Do you ever get tired of fighting?" Lyra asked. Neris considered the question. "Tired? Occasionally. But surrender is not an option. Even now, though my body is bound, my mind remains free, and my spirit unbroken." Kale leaned back against the console, thoughtful. "I think that's the kind of strength most people forget. We worry about muscles, weapons, speed, but it's really the mind and heart that matter the most." Neris's eyes softened. "You are learning quickly, Kale. Lyra, remember this. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Wisdom is in knowing when to wait, when to strike, and when to trust." Lyra smiled, her small hand brushing against the side of the wheelchair. "I think I understand. And I want to be brave like you someday." "You already are," Neris replied gently. "Bravery comes in many forms. Even small actions, when done with conviction, can change the course of history." Kale's gaze shifted to Neris, admiration evident in his eyes. "You've seen centuries pass. You've fought battles we can't imagine. And yet, you still see potential in others, even us." Neris allowed a low, rumbling chuckle. "The galaxy is vast. Strength is found in unexpected places. I have learned that even now, after all I have endured, there are beings capable of surprising me and inspiring me." The quiet hum of the Citadel filled the space between them. Outside, the stars rotated slowly, indifferent to the battles and alliances forged within this floating fortress. But inside, there was warmth, connection, and the sense of a shared purpose that had been absent for centuries. "Can we stay for a while?" Lyra asked again, her voice soft but earnest. Neris looked at them, her ancient eyes reflecting a mix of pride and hope. "You may stay," she said, her voice carrying a rare gentleness. "And perhaps, for longer than you imagine." The three of them sat in silence for a time, watching the stars and listening to the soft hum of repaired systems. Neris allowed herself to feel something she had long thought impossible. Companionship, trust, and the quiet satisfaction of shared purpose. She had survived centuries, led fleets, and faced countless threats, but never had she experienced a connection like this with beings who had entered her world not as servants, or spies, or sycophants, but as equals in courage and spirit. As night deepened and the dying star cast its final golden rays across the Citadel, Neris exhaled slowly. For the first time in centuries, she felt truly at peace. The Citadel, once a monument to solitude and memory, now pulsed with life and promise. Kale and Lyra had proven themselves invaluable, not only in battle but in heart, and their presence reminded Neris that strength was not diminished by limitation, but enhanced by collaboration and trust. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps new enemies, and certainly new opportunities. But Neris no longer faced the galaxy alone. She had allies, companions, and perhaps even friends who would stand with her through the unknown expanses of space. Lyra yawned, leaning her small body against the wheelchair's arm. "I think this was the best birthday ever," she murmured. Neris's eyes softened, her scales catching the faint light. "Perhaps it is, Lyra, and it is only the beginning." Kale smiled, placing a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. "I think we've found a home here, at least for now, and maybe for longer." The Empress's heart, long hardened by centuries of war and solitude, felt light. She realized that true power was not in conquest or fear, but in the bonds forged with those willing to stand beside her. The Citadel, magnificent and eternal, now housed not just an Empress, but a family of sorts, united by courage, trust, and the extraordinary nature of human spirit. And as the stars twinkled quietly outside, Neris allowed herself one final thought for the night. Even the most solitary soul could find connection, and even the most powerful could find joy in the company of those brave enough to enter their world. For the Dragon Empress, her birthday, once destined for loneliness, had become a celebration of life, legacy, and hope. And in that moment, she knew that the universe, vast and unyielding as it was, held endless possibilities for those willing to embrace them.